Zach was instantly stunned, his heart filling with a tumultuous mix of emotions, including a hint of anger and mistrust. He wondered how she could have hidden this secret while others, including Gloria, were concealing it. The idea that she might be pregnant by another man deeply disturbed him, shaking the trust he had begun to place in her. In addition to dealing with his mother's death, the woman he had fought for his freedom was now stunned by the news that Gloria was pregnant. Zach resolved everything concerning Celia's death but no longer wanted to speak to Gloria. He decided to leave the hospital alone and go home to try to process everything that had happened. Meanwhile, Gloria, still in the hospital room recovering, tried to stay calm in the face of the chaotic situation. Gloria was sorry, and the nurses were called again to try to calm her. "Gloria, please don't cry. You now have a life within you. You must be strong for him," said the doctor who was treating her. But Gloria felt at that moment as if she were falling into a bottomless pit. She felt lost and confused, trying to understand what she would do now in the midst of the pain of losing Celia. If there had ever been a time when Gloria felt loved and welcomed, it was thanks to her deceased friend. Gloria was once again alone and had a baby to take care of. The doctors administered some medication and left Gloria to recover. One thing was certain: her life would never be the same after this sad episode, and she knew she would have to find the strength within herself to face the challenges ahead. The next day, they all went to the cemetery to say a final farewell to Celia. Zach's friends were present, and so was Gloria. It was a very sad moment, but Zach did not speak to Gloria at any point. He was very silent despite the pain he was feeling, conversing with some of the friends present, but trying at all costs to avoid Gloria. She noticed and thought it was because of the loss, unaware of what Zach was really planning. In the end, everyone went home, but Gloria remained alone by the grave. She wept desperately, confiding in her best friend, who was no longer among the living, talking about her pregnancy and the mysterious man to whom her father had sold her virginity that night. Crouched over the grave, she sobbed, "What will I do with my life now? You're gone, my friend. I can't believe it," said Gloria. She spent the rest of the day near the grave and returned home at nightfall. When she arrived, Zach was with a few friends talking. In the living room she entered, greeted everyone and went to the kitchen. Zach's friends then asked, "Who is this girl? Is she the maid of the house?" Zach then told them Gloria's story, and they all unanimously agreed that Zach should kick Gloria out of the house. "After all, you don't even know her well, and she probably just wants to take advantage of you and your wealth," said one of them. Zach remained silent for a moment, but deep down, that was exactly what he intended to do. "Give her some money so she can manage for at least a week, and you'll be free of her forever," suggested another friend of Zach. While they were discussing, Gloria entered the living room to serve snacks to the guests. Fortunately, she didn't hear anything. When Gloria left the room, they all began whispering again, urging Zach to do what they had told him. Otherwise, he would certainly have problems staying with an unknown woman and a child. Zach then called Gloria, and in front of everyone, he told her that their marriage contract was over. "I'm ready to give you some money so that you don't end up on the street, but from today, you no longer live here. You can pack your things and leave." One of Zach's friends then shouted, "Zach, are you crazy? Don't give her anything else. You and your mother have already done enough for her. She's a rebellious street woman. She can surely manage on her own." It seemed that Gloria felt the ground open up beneath her at that moment. She didn't know what to do or say in the face of such humiliation, tears continuously streaming from her eyes, knowing that once again in her life she was alone and without support. Zach then threw a paper at her and said, "Here are the results of your test. I already know that you're pregnant. You're a fraud." Gloria heard everything without saying a word, just crying incessantly. "Here are the divorce papers. I want you to sign them now." Gloria signed all the documents without hesitation, and then he threw her out like a dog. Gloria, heartbroken, found herself outside with her belongings, without money and without knowing where to go. She wandered aimlessly through the busy streets of the city, lamenting, "What kind of life is this? I'm pregnant with someone I don't even know. How am I going to take care of this child? I don't even have a roof over my head. Once again, I've been deceived and humiliated. What a fool I am." When night fell, Gloria found an abandoned building and entered it to spend the night. Back at the house, Zach's friends had all left, leaving him alone in his luxurious living room. Zach was reflecting on everything. That day, Zach couldn't stop thinking about what he had done to poor Gloria. He remembered the efforts she had made to take care of Celia in prison and during her last days. Gloria had cared for her with such tenderness. "How could I have been so cruel? She didn't deserve it. I've been so ruthless. She's expecting a child." His thoughts tormented him as he paced back and forth in the room. Deep down, he knew that Gloria was a good girl, so he decided to go out and search for her. Zach roamed the streets, asking everyone he met and describing Gloria's features, but no one could give him the slightest clue. Zach began to feel like the worst person in the world for what he had done, knowing that if his mother were still alive, she would never have allowed such a thing. After searching for a few hours, he stopped in front of an abandoned building, and by chance, he spotted Gloria's bag nearby. Zach recognized Gloria's belongings and feared the worst. Desperate for any news, he decided to search the area and eventually found Gloria sleeping in the abandoned building. If you like today's story, leave a like on the video so you don't miss new stories on the channel. Let's continue. Zach breathed a sigh of relief and approached her. Gloria, surprised to see someone, recognized Zach and, still confused, asked, "What are you doing here? I didn't take anything from you. You can see, there are only my clothes here." Zach replied, "I know, but I've come to get you. You can't stay here alone. Come with me." "How do you expect me to come? You yourself threw me out." "I have nothing to do at your place," Gloria said, remaining where she was and refusing to leave. Zach insisted, stating that he wouldn't go back without her, but Gloria didn't budge. Seeing that she wouldn't move, Zach grabbed her, put her in the car, and brought her back to the house. Once home, he set her down. "You can't stay on the streets. Stay here. My mother wouldn't have wanted to see you suffer even more, especially now that you're expecting a baby." Zach led her to the servants' quarters and didn't talk to her much, only saying what was absolutely necessary, as he was still very upset. One question constantly tormented him. Who was the father of the child Gloria was expecting? Since she had been at the house, she hadn't received any visitors. The next day, he called her into the garden and told her that she wouldn't stay at the house without doing anything. He would teach her how to take care of the garden's flowers, and after she gave birth, she could leave. Gloria reluctantly agreed, thinking about her unborn child and needing a roof over her head to survive. A few months passed, and Gloria tended to the garden. Like someone who was always in bloom, her belly was already well-rounded, and she tired quickly but didn't show it because she needed the job. On his side, Zach had little contact with Gloria and continued his life as usual. Zach had an engagement with another woman. You remember that in the first part, Gloria's father, Shaquille, had made a deal with Zach, and Helena, her sister, had been promised to him. If you haven't seen the first part yet, go watch it after this video. I'll put the link in the pinned comment. Helena, Gloria's sister, came to visit her fiancé, completely unaware that her sister was in this house. Upon entering, she saw a pregnant woman tending the flowers and couldn't believe her eyes. It was Gloria, her forgotten sister, and the most shocking thing was that she was pregnant. "What is Gloria doing there?" thought Helena. Without being noticed, Helena ran home to tell her father what she had just seen. "What?" said Shaquille, incredulous. "Are you telling me that Gloria is pregnant and in Zach's house? That's not possible. What is she doing there?" Helena replied, "I don't know either, father. I didn't understand anything. I was shocked to see her in that place. I have to see this right away. Zach promised to marry you. He can't break his promise like this. Her father quickly stood up and headed to Zach's house, upset at the thought that his plans might fall apart. When he arrived at the house, Shaquille was irritated, ready to confront his future son-in-law. You promised to marry Helena. Why did you get another woman pregnant? Shaquille hadn't revealed that he was Gloria's father, but he knew that Gloria's child could be Zach's because he remembered the night he had sent her to satisfy Zach. Zach then explained that he was not the father of the child and that the young woman in question was just a housemaid. Relieved after the conversation, Shaquille returned home without even speaking to Gloria, and she didn't see him either. When Shaquille arrived home, he told the situation to his wife, who immediately suggested that Zach and Helena get married as soon as possible. What if he discovers the truth? What if Zach finds out he's the father of the child? Thus, the wedding preparations began. Everything was very luxurious. A few months passed, and on a rainy night, Gloria felt intense pain. Zach was returning home when he saw her in the kitchen. She didn't show anything unusual because she didn't want to disturb anyone. But as she headed to her room, her water broke, and Zach quickly took her to the nearest hospital. Gloria gave birth to not one but 2 babies. When the nurse came to inform Zach, he entered the room and saw 2 children next to Gloria. At that moment, his heart filled with joy, and he forgot all the quarrels he had had with Gloria. What he felt at that moment was different from anything he had felt before. It was such a strong connection, something inexplicable. He felt like he had won the lottery, unaware that he was the biological father. To his great surprise, Zach showed all his love for the babies with tenderness and gifts. This made Gloria cry with happiness, but deep down, she was still worried because her time to stay at Zach's house had run out. Gloria returned home with her children, very happy but also concerned about the future. Next morning, she planned to leave the house because she didn't want to be there when her sister became the lady of the house, knowing that her life would become a living hell. But where will I go? Thought Gloria, now with 2 children. Helena did not care about her sister's well-being. Her family pretended not to know her. Gloria was alone in the world with 2 children to raise, all because of her father's ambition. Every time Helena visited, she found Zach with the twins in his arms. Zach loved holding them and would spend hours just watching them. During one of Helena's visits, Zach noticed that one of the babies had the same birthmark as him. Zach was very surprised but then thought it was just a coincidence. That day, Helena felt uncomfortable because her fiancé was not paying her any attention. She felt like an intruder and, very irritated, decided to leave. Upon arriving home, she told her father what had happened. Shaquille was not at all happy with the way this story was unfolding. He couldn't let Gloria ruin his plans and thought once again, I must resolve this situation. But how? Meanwhile, Gloria went out to look for a house where she could live with her children because her time at Zach's house was up, and she didn't want to live with her sister under any circumstances. She walked all day but couldn't find a house she could afford. The next day, she returned to the streets and this time found a house she could afford, even though the place was very run down and in ruins. But she didn't have many options, so she finalized the deal and took the small house. Gloria returned home, thoughtful but relieved that she no longer needed favors. She began to pack her things to move. Meanwhile, Zach visited the family of his fiancée, Helena, without warning, but just as he was about to knock on the door, he heard a heated discussion inside the house. He then decided to quietly step back without being seen. He was shocked to hear Helena, his fiancée, crying and asking her parents what would happen if Zach found out that Gloria was actually her sister, the same young virgin girl that Shaquille had sent to sleep with him that night. Worse still, what would happen if Zach discovered that Gloria's babies were actually his biological children? I hate you. Why didn't you send me instead? Now I would have children with him. He's going to call off the wedding, father. Zach was stunned by what he had just heard, not knowing what to do. The world seemed to stop for him at that moment. He left without anyone noticing. On his way back, he tried to process all the information, unable to hold back the tears of regret streaming down his face as he thought about the harm he had done to Gloria. When Zach arrived home, Gloria was already ready to leave. In 2 days, she would move out with the babies. "Where are you going, Gloria?" Zach asked. She reminded him of their agreement, that her time in the house was up. "I don't want to bother anyone. You yourself said that I could only stay until the babies were born," she said. "I've found a simple little house for us. In 2 days, we'll be gone." Zach didn't want to stop her, so he nodded and withdrew to his room, preoccupied with what he had overheard at Eleanor's house. He wanted to question Gloria, but he was afraid and felt very ashamed. The next day, Zach, without anyone knowing, managed to obtain a few strands of hair from Gloria's children and decided to do a paternity test to remove all doubts. The test confirmed that the children were indeed his. Zach felt a mix of emotions, realizing that he was now a father. After calming down, he went to see Gloria in her room and began to talk to her. "Gloria, I was very hard on you, a coward. I don't have words to describe how badly I treated you. I'm here to ask for your forgiveness for all the pain I've caused you. You didn't deserve to go through all this because of me." She, very surprised by Zach's request, replied, "Be at peace. I hold no resentment against you. On the contrary, I want to thank you for everything you and your mother have done for me. Your mother saved my life." The conversation was so emotional that at one point Zach mustered the courage to ask, "Gloria, I've noticed that since you've been here, no man has come to see you, neither during your pregnancy nor after the birth of the babies. Please, I know you don't owe me any explanation, but who is the father of your children?" Gloria didn't understand why he wanted to know, but from the tone of his request, he seemed so concerned that she began to cry as she recounted the details of a dark night when her father had sold her virginity to an unknown man for financial gain, promising to get her out of prison. She didn't even know his name because he didn't want to be recognized. Gloria went on to explain that she had never committed any crime and that it was her sister who had been imprisoned, but her father convinced her to take her sister's place in prison. "Gloria, please forgive me. I had no idea you had gone through all of this. How could a father do so much harm to his own daughter? Please forgive me and don't leave. I want you here," Zach pleaded. "No, Zach, you're going to get married. I can't stay in this house. Your wife wouldn't allow it," Gloria replied, still surprised by his request. That's when Zach took her hands and, crying, revealed the whole truth to her. "Gloria, I'm the father of your babies. I'm the man you slept with that night. Please forgive me. I didn't know they were going to bring me a virgin. I only found out in the morning. I felt sorry for you, but it was already done, and I couldn't look for you. I didn't even know your name." Gloria quickly pulled her hands away from Zach's. "Where did you get this crazy idea? That's not possible. You're not that man." But as Zach continued to speak, memories began to surface, and she recognized Zach's voice. Zach asked for her forgiveness again, saying he was extremely sorry and that he wanted to raise his children with all the love they deserved. He also explained how he had discovered the truth, revealing that he knew who her parents were and that Helena was her sister. That day, after their long conversation, Gloria was so overwhelmed that she didn't know how to react to the situation. Just yesterday, she was a destitute woman with no one, and now she discovered that the father of her children had always been so close. Zach spent the night thinking about what he could do. Then he thought, "It's better for me to marry Gloria, but will she accept?" The next morning, he went to speak to Gloria again. He knelt before her and asked her to marry him, but Gloria refused his proposal. "You're already engaged, have you forgotten? This is madness. And what about Helena? What are you going to tell her and my father?" Zach responded, "Please, Gloria, accept my proposal. Let's form a family together. Our children deserve it, and my mother would be so happy to see us together." After much insistence, Gloria decided to accept Zach's proposal. "I know I've hurt you a lot, but I'm ready to change that. Since you came into my life, nothing has been the same, and since the babies arrived, I've become a new man, and it's all because of you, Gloria. I want to stay by your side. My mother was right, he said. Gloria then abandoned the idea of moving out. Zach was so in love with her, but they hadn't yet made their relationship official. Zach knew he needed to be patient with Gloria, so day after day he tried to win her over with loving gestures and gifts. They organized a beautiful party, and without Shaquille knowing, many influential people attended. On their wedding night, the couple slept separately, as Gloria wasn't ready for that moment with Zach. She still needed time. The news of the marriage spread and eventually reached Shaquille's ears, who became furious. Immediately, Helena and her father went to the house, shouting in the living room, "Zach, traitor! Come here and talk to me!" Zach came down from his room to see what was happening and found himself facing Helena and her father, who were demanding an explanation. "Why did you betray us? Why did you betray my daughter?" "You're a man without honor," Shaquille said. Zach replied, "Without honor? If there's someone here who's dishonorable, who's extremely cruel, it's you. A man who had the audacity to sell his own daughter's innocence to a stranger. You're capable of anything for money. What else have you done in your life? Tell me, because I already know the truth. There's no need to threaten me." Shaquille and Helena were stunned. Shaquille tried to turn the situation around and pretend he knew nothing, but Gloria came down to see what was going on and found herself facing her father, who ran to hug her, pretending to be happy to see her. Gloria, with a firm voice, asked him to step away. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "What do you want from me now after taking everything from me?" Seeing that he had lost, Shaquille attempted to fake repentance, but Zach called the security guards and asked them to escort Shaquille and Helena out, warning them never to return. After they left, Gloria burst into tears. Despite all their cruelty, they were still her family, and it was painful to know that they were capable of anything out of greed. Zach immediately went to her and comforted her with a warm embrace, then kissed her with love. Gloria didn't hesitate, and the two kissed passionately. That day, they made their relationship official and lived happily ever after. Manor. Gloria became a woman of value, respected by all, and took care of everything at the manor like no one else could. Everyone loved her there. Zach and Gloria grew closer and more prosperous, while Shaquille, her father, fell apart. His wealth disappeared, and he was humiliated in the village where he lived. Helena became pregnant without knowing who the father was, and thus Gloria's family reaped the consequences of their wickedness. The lesson this story leaves us with today is that there is no point in trying to extinguish the light of someone who is already shining. They tried everything to destroy Gloria. She thought she had hit rock bottom, but just as in her life, God's plans for your life are very different from what you might imagine. No matter what people say or try to do, your future is written in God's hands. Stay strong and plant good seeds so that your harvest will be good. What lesson did you learn from this story? Share with me here in the comments.